What's up, pilots? Welcome to KC Quadtronics, and I am Oops FPV. And today on the channel, I'm going to be going over the SpeedyBee F405 B4 flight controller stack. Now, before we get started, I just want to say that if you too would like to purchase this at the end of this video, I will leave some links down in the description for you to do so. And also, if this helps you in your buying decisions and you enjoy this content, could you please remember to give me a thumbs up? And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, also think about hitting the subscription button and then maybe the notification bell. Then you will be notified of any future content like this. Thank you for that as well. And also, I hope you enjoy the video. I hope this also helps you with your buying decision. With that said, let's go ahead and move on and show you what all you get with this fully feature-packed flight control stack for just under $70, which, like it says, is absolutely ridiculous. And I just cannot wait to show you all the things that you get. So we're going to dive over straight to the bench. I'm going to show you everything you get when you unbox this baby, and we're going to go over some of the features, if not all of them, and what they've improved on this version of the board and ESC. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Oh yeah, and there she is. So real quick, before we dive into all the features on the ESC and flight controller, let's go over what all is included. So upon first opening the box, you'll probably come across this little card here. This will allow you to scan this barcode and download the SpeedyBee app if you don't already have it. But if you want to download it manually, you can also do so through speedybee.com/download. And if you have any issues, feel free to contact SpeedyBee about them via the SpeedyBee app, or you can email them at contact@speedybee.com, and they will help you get your issues resolved. Of course, we have the flight controller here and the ESC, which we are going to go over here in just one moment. Let's go ahead and see what all is included with the stack. So here is our quality control pass. And looky here. So normally when you get a stack, you get your HD system plug, which would normally plug into right here. And that would be for your HD system. We'll go over that in a second. And then you normally would only get this plug as well, which is your stack plug. This is to plug your ESC, well, to plug your ESC into your flight controller. And that was it. That would be the only room you had. That's it. The stack had to be plugged up like this. Unless you had your own plug, this is what you were pretty much stuck with. But now it seems as though SpeedyBee has listened to the community, and they have included an extra long ESC to flight control plug. And this is now going to allow this to be mounted pretty much any way you want to mount it. You can mount it backwards, sideways, you can mount this in the back of your quad and this in the front. It really doesn't matter. However you want to do it, you can do it. And that is really nice and thoughtful of SpeedyBee to include that with the stack. And I'm very happy with that. I may not even end up using it for the moment, but who knows, I may end up using it. And I know a lot of you out there that are going to really enjoy the fact that this is coming with this stack. Another interesting feature is the, of course, included DJI or HD system plug. This can be repurposed for any HD system. It goes into the flight controller as such, just like that on the bottom. But then here, if you don't see it? Yeah, get up closer. There we go. Alright, so if you can see here, they have it laid out for you what each wire is, what it goes to, and what each UART is for. So like you would have UART 1 for OSD, UART 2 for the receiver. So T1 and R1 would be for your OSD, and R2 would be for the receiver. And that is really nice. It's going to let you know exactly what goes where, and you can also just take these and repin them into another plug for like HDZERO or something like that if you want to. I've done that as well. It's not a hard task. You can do it. It's pretty simple as long as you have a plug that will fit your HD system. So, if not, if you've got DJI and you're using this, then fine, you're good to go. Just plug it and play. And then, of course, next we have our hardware here, which right off the bat is our 1000 microfarad 35 volt low ESR capacitor that will go onto our ESC, which they've even included the little bitty hose there that you can stick this capacitor in, which you don't have to mount it there, but that's where they've included a place for you to mount it in case you do want to mount it there. And I normally do. And then of course you have your stack screws and nut and an extra gummy. And here's another extra gummy, for one for your ESC and one for your flight controller. And then also you have your little rubber spacers in case you want to use them. And then I do actually in most cases use these guys. And then that also include the heat shrink for the arms of your low ESR capacitor. So that's really nice, and everything that you could need for the stack is here and included. Then of course we have, last but not least, our XT60 plug, which they don't hesitate on giving you a nice plug at that. This is one of the nicer versions in my opinion. You can just solder it up, put the cap over it, and go. I like these a lot better than the ones that are just heat shrink, but there you go. That's what's all included with the flight control stack and ESC. Now let's go ahead and move on to the features of the board and ESC. SpeedyBee also provides a very nice wiring diagram in their manual for this flight controller, or on their website for this flight controller, and also a nice diagram of the overall connection that you will be doing. And it even has a very detailed write-up of all of the VTXs and what you will be plugging them in and how, and also your receivers, where you'll be plugging those in, not what, but where you'll be plugging those in. And then also a nice layout of the board and ESC, and then of course the package contents, which we went over already. And here is also some more of the package contents and a whole bunch of detailed specifications. I just wanted to include that. You can also go on their site and get all of this information about the boards. Go over all the features on the board here with you, and let's just do that right now. So here, first off, you can see this red thing here. Well, that goes to your Bluetooth chip. This is going to allow for the wireless configuration of your flight controller from the SpeedyBee app. And that's going to allow you to change your motor direction wirelessly. It's going to allow you to completely configure this guy out on the field. And that is awesome. Now, only with the S7 can you update the firmware wirelessly, but you can do everything else with this guy other than that. So that is awesome. Absolutely awesome, and I love it. One of the best features of SpeedyBee's boards is their Bluetooth capabilities, other than all these other features, which are also amazing. But this is one of the best features for sure. Because who doesn't want the capabilities of being able to just wirelessly configure their device out on the field, especially if you're in situations like this, whenever you can't plug in to the flight controller because it's nearly impossible to get a cord into the slot. So also it's going to help in situations where you're out on the field and you just want to wirelessly configure your quad or airplane or whatever you're flying. Also, in situations like this, you won't have to worry about taking your quad all apart or having to use an extension in order to get to your USB. So that's really going to help out in a lot of situations. Next, I would like to go over this guy over here, and you may be wondering, why is there a battery symbol on the side of the board? Well, guess what? It has a built-in battery checker. And of course, if you're already familiar with the V3 version of this board, then this is nothing new to you. And this is just the battery checker carried over to this board. But this is absolutely amazing. As you can see here up on the screen, if you forget your LiPo checker, you just look at your flight controller. You plug your battery in, and then whatever LEDs are on indicate how charged your battery is. Of course, you know, you go from 100 to 75% at 4 LEDs. 3 LEDs is 50 to 75%, 25 to 50%, and then 25%. And then if it's solid, that's 10 to 25% on one LED. And if it starts to blink, that lets you know you're at 10% or lower. So how cool is that? It even lets you know if you're getting super low and it's at 10% or lower. That's pretty cool. So in other words, you couldn't pretty much can't go wrong. You forget your battery checker, you just plug it into your SpeedyBee and check it that way. Really, really neat. And that is also a very cool feature of these new SpeedyBee boards that have been coming out lately. So next, let's go ahead and move on to the gyro. So the gyro is the 8ICMM42688P gyro, and it has a Max Linear's LDO power chip right here, and then dual, there's one, and then two 100 microfarad tantalum capacitors to help shield the gyro data from the power interferences caused from the ESC and battery and motors and stuff. It's going to also give up to 320% protection against the power surges and power spikes. So that is awesome. It's also going to provide way cleaner data going to the gyro. And that is great. Absolutely great. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. That is a definite important feature of this new board. Okay, so very exciting feature here is that it has 4 sets of pads for LEDs. So it is awesome. You can actually wire separate LEDs up to each separate pad, and you can then change the color just by pressing this button after you've powered on your quad. You can also change it in Betafly itself as well, and yes, you do still have your LED pad here on the flight controller, but these as well. So that is awesome, and I love that. I loved it about the V3 version, and they went ahead and carried it over to the V4, thank goodness. So next, you of course have the capabilities of, for one, plugging up your 4-in-1 ESC, but if you do break this plug, they include solder pads. So you can direct solder to this puppy, and if you do break this, it's just fine. Just solder it up and you just get back up in the sky and go again. But also, you can plug up this ESC and another ESC, which gives you a total of 8 motor outputs on this flight controller. So it can do 8 motors, and that is awesome. So with that, we can move on to the next thing. And now, so if we flip over to this side, we'll see here that they have so nicely wrote out micro SD, FAT32 or FAT. This means that you use a micro SD, any micro SD, because they have fixed the compatibility issue. And you've used these micro SD cards as long as it's formatted at FAT32 or FAT. You format it in one of those formats and you should be good to go now. They have fixed the issue that the V3 had with some of the SD cards, if not most of the SD cards. So up here is where you would solder up your receiver. Say I'm using ELRS, so I'm going to solder up the ground, this 4.5 volt R2 and D2. Well, if you're using Spectrum or FR Sky, you could use this still, but Spectrum you would be using this. Anything else, you're going to use the 4.5 volt pad. And so what this is going to allow you to do, or this, is allow you to plug up the USB and then configure it, because it will give it power just by plugging up through USB, which will then allow you to not have to plug up a battery to configure your receiver or your modes tab or anything else like that. And on top of that, if you have a GPS soldered up to this board, it too will also run off of the same 4.5 volt pad and get power when you plug up the USB, which will allow you to then get GPS lock just by plugging up USB out on the field and not having to plug in a battery and kill your battery or get your VTX hot or your components hot before taking off. You can just simply plug up your USB and it will power your module, your GPS module, with no problems. So that is awesome, very awesome. And I don't believe that there is any other flight control stacks out there that offer these options for this price especially. So also you have a 9 volt and a 5 volt spec just like before, but this time they are 3 amps each. So now you will not have to worry about shorting out one of your BECs from your digital system that your digital video system that you're using. And also on board is a barometer. So right up here, this little bitty guy is your barometer right there. And with that, that's going to allow you to have a lot more accuracy in GPS return to home and in iNav. In Betaflight GPS return, iNav, or any other flight software that you're deciding to use with this board. So, and also on the board, if you've noticed, if not, I'm going to go ahead and point it out, but if you have, maybe you're wondering what they go to. So here you have a little B and a T, and it's pointing to this, which is a little LED that stands for Bluetooth, and that will allow you to see if your Bluetooth is on or not and connected. Then you have here gyro, which here's your gyro, but also there's an LED here which will resemble your gyro as well and show your gyro status. Then you have your power LED, your flight controller LED, and also there is there's like, I believe, another indicator on here as well. But other than your battery indicators over here, that is quite a bit of LEDs on one board to give you indicators and to let you know what all you've got going on. So let's go ahead and just take a little look at it here. As you can see there, so here's the little LED for gyro, here's your flight controller LED, your power LED, and of course this is the LiPo checker, which is 10% or less because there's no LiPo. And then Bluetooth LED is not on at the moment because the Bluetooth is not powered up. But if it was, then these would be on. And when you turn on the board, if your LEDs are set to like the board or the switch, this light will be a different color than if they are set to beta flight. So that also will give you an indicator letting you know what your LED mode is set to. Very, very neat. Now, up here is the place where you will solder up your analog camera. Then down here is where you will solder up your analog or digital VTX. And if you're using HD, then you can also use this plug. Here's your buzzer pad. Here is the Beta Flight LED pad. And we went over this. This is your GPS here. And if you see here, they've got this section off, each area section off, and that's really, really neat. Really neat. And then of course up here's your motor pad, your receiver pad. All this is your receiver pad. And then here's your, again we said camera, and here's your UART3. This does have 4 usable UARTs on board. It has 6 total, 2 of which are being used, 1 by Bluetooth and 1 for the ESC. So those 2 you're going to want to leave, which are already set in beta flight. One I believe is set as UART4 and the other is set as UART5, I believe. So you're going to want to leave those set as default in beta flight, however they're set. But with all that out of the way, also let's point out that this is your analog OSD chip here, and that pretty much sums up everything on the board. Also, they've put detail down here for the DJI pilots out there. This says DJI plug and play, O3, Link, Vista, Air Unit. This also works with HDZERO. You just may have to repin it, and then also exclude the extra ground. But there is here, it also tells you what each one of these UARTs will be used for. So you've got T1, R1, and then R2. So that is going to tell you UART1 is for the OSD, and UART2 is for your receiver. So how cool is that? They actually put it on the board. And also, if you didn't see, there's this little like blue stuff around each plug. They have put some protectant around each plug to help reinforce it from any crashes or jars or hard smacks in the pavement. So hopefully that will help also reinforce the board for durability. So really, really nice. Well done. I'm very excited to have this and to get to test it and see what it's all about. And with that all out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the 55 amp new and improved 4-in-1 8-bit via Heli S ESC. Alright, now it's time to dive into the all new and improved 55 amp ESC. I really think you're gonna like this. Let's check it out. So right off, I'm sure you can see this ginormous heat sink right on top of the ESC. It's gonna help burst the heat throughout the whole board and help with the life of the board and the performance as well. And you can clearly see they have marked the motor output number right here through the heat shield. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. It resembles what motor output that is. Help you to know which way it's orientated for in beta flight or whatever flight software you're using. And also the PCB has been completely refined now. If you're familiar with the V3 version, you probably noticed right off that the solder pads are not sticking out from each other no more. They're all together on one board, and the copper thickness has been increased from 2 to 3 ounces now. So that is a significant improvement as well. And the MOSFET specifications have also been enhanced, giving this a continuous current of 55 amps per channel, which is 220 amps across all channels, and then a 70 amp per channel burst for 10 seconds, which is 280 amps across all channels for 10 seconds. This added aluminum alloy heatsink is going to ensure that the MOSFET heat dissipation is stable throughout your flight. Now, also, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the back of the board. So here we have, starting out, right here is a TVS diode. This is going to help absorb voltage spikes during power up and crash events. Anytime that you may happen to crash or something, it will cause the voltage to spike and can hurt, sometimes burn up an ESC and components and all that. Well, this is supposed to help prevent that. And also they include a 1000 microfarad 35 volt low ESR capacitor, which they also include the holes for you to mount it in if you would like to mount it there as well. And this will help significantly protect against all of those things, especially any out signal interference from the power supply to the flight controller's gyroscope. This ensures smoother flight performance overall. So that is a definite need, especially if you're anything above even 3 to 4S. So, and then of course here's all your MOSFETs all nicely laid out for you, and then you have your separate board here with the MCUs on it. Also, here is your Form 1 plug, and they do include some adhesive all around it and the chip around it so that it could provide some more protection against crashes and jars, and even just from being plugged up so many times and unplugged. It can wear out these plugs and eventually break them, or you could break it in a crash, which is more likely. And in any case, they include the solder pads and the silk board layout for what each pad represents. So it's really nice and hands-on, and it makes the user experience definitely a lot easier. So SpeedyBee has put a lot of thought into this redesign, and they even put a lot of thought into the V3 as well. But they definitely are here in the community and moving forward, and I just cannot wait to see what the future holds, because this is just absolutely incredible. And also, if you would like to, you can barely see them, but inside there are Japanese TDK 35 volt 22 microfarad SMD filtering and energy storage capacitors. So, and they're lined up all the way up and down the board right here, just like you see right there on the screen. So yeah, that's pretty nice indeed, and that's also going to help out with a whole lot of stuff. And with that, let's go ahead and move forward. Alright, pilots, so I hope that this video has helped you out. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and if you too have now decided that you would like to get a few of these guys, or just the flight controller or ESC by itself, which you can do, I will leave some links down below in the description for you to do just that. And if you haven't already, could you think about hitting that thumbs up, and if you're not a channel subscriber, maybe think about hitting the subscription button, which is absolutely free to you. And if you would like to be notified of any future content that is released from the channel, be sure and hit the notification bell, and YouTube will notify you. And so, with all that said, stay safe out there, pilots. Watch out for all the Karens. And I hopefully will see you all on the next one.